There is one kind of stock that never loses its value, one kind of investment immune to inflation, immune to market crashes, immune even to the chaos of changing times. It is not gold, not land, not real estate, not Bitcoin. That stock is you. No matter what the world does, no matter how volatile the economy becomes, the investment you place into yourself will continue to grow, deepen, and pay dividends that last a lifetime. Imagine for a moment that you are a company listed on the grand exchange of life. Every decision you make, every book you read, every step you take toward growth is like buying another share in yourself. The more you accumulate, the stronger your value becomes. And unlike any company on Wall Street, this enterprise is one where you are both founder and investor, both visionary and beneficiary. Think of how we speak about companies. Their worth rises and falls, their reputation shapes markets, their innovation secures the future. Now shift that language toward yourself. What is your reputation? What innovation have you brought to your own daily life? What dividends do your skills and knowledge pay you? In this metaphor, every moment you invest in yourself is another deposit into a vault that no external force can ever rob. Have you ever wondered why, given the same starting line, some people soar into extraordinary success while others remain stuck in circles that never widen? Often it isn't luck, nor sheer genius, but the quiet, steady choice to keep investing in themselves. They spend where it matters, not on fleeting indulgences, but on books, on mentors, on health, on broadening experiences that open doors. When storms of life strike, these individuals are not only prepared, they thrive. Because their inner portfolio has already been built strong. This is the truth of self-investment. It is not dramatic, it is not glamorous in the moment, but it compounds over time in ways the stock market never could. Each hour of study, each choice for health, each relationship nurtured, each journey taken becomes part of your capital. And unlike money in a bank, this capital cannot be devalued by economic downturns. It is woven into who you are. If you're listening to this right now, take a moment to reflect. Where are you watching or listening from? What time of day is it? Leave a comment sharing it. The act itself is part of the journey, an acknowledgement that you are choosing to spend this time not passively, but actively to enrich your mind. And while you're here, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so that each step of this shared journey in audiobook sanctuary is one you will never miss. This space is a library of voices built to help you continually invest in the most important stock, yourself. Now let us settle into the story. Picture yourself as both architect and builder of your own empire. Every decision today lays a brick in the foundation of tomorrow. Some bricks are weak, crumbling as soon as pressure mounts. These are the wasted hours, the self-destructive habits, the excuses. Other bricks are strong, forged from discipline, knowledge, resilience, and experience. These are the investments that last. Which kind of empire are you building? Let's look at the idea of self as enterprise. A company does not succeed because of one product launch, but through years of reinvestment. They reinvest profits into research, staff development, innovation, marketing. Similarly, you must take the returns of your efforts and channel them back into your own growth. Did you complete a project? Take the lessons from it, reinvest them. Did you earn a little money? Set aside a portion to buy a book, attend a workshop, or prioritize your health. Just as a wise company never drains its earnings on frivolous spending, you must not let your personal profits leak away into things that leave no trace on your inner balance sheet. History gives us countless reminders. Consider Benjamin Franklin, who came from humble beginnings but declared early in life that the best investment he could ever make was in knowledge. He disciplined himself to read, to write, to engage with thinkers. Over time, that self-investment not only enriched him, but created institutions, libraries, schools, even civic organizations that would echo long after he was gone. Franklin treated himself as a portfolio worth diversifying, and the returns of that portfolio benefited not only his own life, but generations to follow. Or look at Warren Buffett, one of the richest men alive. He has often said the single most important investment he ever made was not a stock or a company, but a course in public speaking. As a young man, he was terrified to stand before people. That fear, left unchecked, would have crippled his career. But instead, he paid for a course, endured the discomfort, and transformed weakness into strength. That choice of reinvestment created billions in indirect returns, because every deal, every pitch, every speech he gave was amplified by that one decision to invest in himself. This is the nature of compounding. A small input today, reinvested consistently, grows beyond recognition tomorrow. And this applies not only to knowledge, but to health, to relationships, to the breadth of experience. Each is a sector in your personal portfolio, and neglecting any one of them leaves your enterprise vulnerable. Think of it this way. A company that pours everything into sales but neglects innovation soon fades. A company that develops amazing products but ignores marketing is forgotten. Balance matters. So too with you. Balance across mind, body, spirit, and social connections is what makes your investment resilient. But there is another truth here, often forgotten. The earlier you begin, the more powerful the compounding effect. This is why self-investment feels urgent. The hours you spend today will multiply across decades. The earlier you read widely, the more years your expanded perspective will guide you. The earlier you care for your health, the more decades you gain with strength and energy. The earlier you build relationships with authenticity, the more years you will spend supported by a network that believes in you. And the earlier you seek experience, the more vivid your life story becomes. Delay, and you do not only lose days, you lose compounded returns that could have transformed your destiny. Still, it is never too late. Because unlike the stock market, where entering late costs you dearly, the market of self-investment remains open for as long as you live. Every book picked up, every healthy choice, every act of kindness, every step outside your comfort zone continues to add value. The compounding may not stretch as far if you begin at 50 compared to 20, but the returns are still immeasurable, still life-changing, still able to shift entire futures. And so the question becomes, what will you invest in today? Will you let your time be consumed by trivialities, or will you convert hours into bricks of value? Will you treat your mind, body, heart, and experiences as priceless sectors, or will you treat them as expendable? These choices do not announce themselves loudly. They whisper. A book or a television show, a walk or another hour scrolling, a call to a mentor or silence. Each choice is small, but together they build empires. Imagine, years from now looking back, how will you see yourself as a fortune squandered or as a fortune multiplied? Your personal stock chart will not be measured by money alone, but by knowledge gained, health preserved, relationships strengthened, experiences lived fully. That chart, invisible to others, will guide the true wealth of your days. And so we begin this journey with the promise of exploring the four great pillars of investment: knowledge, health, relationships, and experience. Each one will show us how the dividends of self-investment are paid not in dollars alone, but in freedom, resilience, opportunity, and fulfillment. Together, they form the portfolio that no crisis can destroy. In the next section, we will start with the foundation of all wealth, knowledge. Because if investing in yourself is the greatest asset, then learning is the first currency you must accumulate, the seed from which all future returns are born. Knowledge is the seed from which every harvest of wealth is grown. Without it, opportunities slip by unnoticed. Challenges crush us instead of refining us, and the future becomes a repetition of the past. With it, the world itself expands, horizons open, problems transform into puzzles, and life becomes a landscape of possibility. Knowledge is not simply what we learned in school. It is a living capital, always growing, always compounding, shaping not only what we know, but how we think, how we act, and how we interpret the endless signals the world sends our way. Consider this truth. When you invest money into a stock, you might gain a return of 5 or 10%, perhaps more if fortune smiles. But when you invest in knowledge, the return is unlimited. A single book can reshape an entire career. One new skill can double your income. One shift in perspective can prevent years of wasted effort. The returns are not measured in dollars alone, but in freedom, in clarity, in resilience. Think of knowledge as capital stored not in a vault, but in your very mind. Each idea becomes a coin, each skill a share, each insight a dividend. And unlike traditional wealth, this treasury cannot be stolen. The more you spend it, the more it grows. Share what you know, teach it, practice it, and your understanding deepens. Knowledge is the only capital where the act of spending multiplies the principal. Now, picture the greatest investors of history, not just in finance, but in life. They are voracious learners. They read when others waste hours. They ask questions when others nod silently. They treat every interaction, every failure, every success as a lesson. To them, classrooms exist everywhere, in books, in conversations, in quiet reflection. This is the mindset we must cultivate. Warren Buffett himself is legendary for spending most of his day reading. Annual reports, biographies, newspapers, even technical documents. When asked the secret of his success, he often replies, "I just sit in my office and read all day." He knows that each page is another brick of insight, and over years, those bricks form the fortress of his wisdom. He once advised young people, read 500 pages every week. That's how knowledge works. It builds up, like compound interest. Few take the advice literally, but those who do often discover how profoundly true it is. But let us step away from billionaires for a moment and look closer to everyday life. Imagine two people working the same job at the same salary. One spends evenings streaming endless shows. The other spends evenings reading, listening to lectures, and practicing new skills. A year later, one still holds the same position, while the other has been promoted or has left to start a new venture. The difference was not genius or luck, but a daily choice of investment. Knowledge over distraction. Reading is one of the most accessible ways to invest in knowledge. A book costs less than a meal, but can yield more than a degree. Within its pages lie decades of someone else's hard-won lessons, distilled and offered for a fraction of their true cost. To ignore such treasures is to walk past gold lying in the street. Yet reading is not the only path. In our age, knowledge streams through audiobooks, podcasts, online courses, documentaries, even thoughtful conversations. The form matters less than the intention: to seek, to question, to absorb, to apply. Still, not all knowledge is equal. There is a danger in confusing information with wisdom. In a world overflowing with data, we can drown in shallow facts and never reach the depths of true understanding. The wise investor in knowledge does not simply consume, they discern. They ask, Does this serve my growth? Does it sharpen my mind? Does it teach me how to think, not just what to think? The internet is an ocean of content, but only some streams are clean. Choose your sources as carefully as you would choose an investment fund, for the returns depend on the quality of the input, and knowledge must not remain trapped in the mind. It must be tested, practiced, embodied. A skill learned but never used is like money buried in the ground. It may exist, but it yields nothing. True wealth comes when knowledge is applied, when the lesson becomes a habit, when the theory becomes action. If you learn about leadership but never step into responsibility, the return is zero. If you study health but ignore exercise, the pages are wasted. Application is the interest payment of knowledge. One of the most powerful aspects of knowledge is its ability to liberate. Ignorance chains us. It convinces us that our situation cannot change, that the limits around us are permanent. Knowledge breaks those chains. It reveals options we never saw, paths we never considered, opportunities hidden in plain sight. This is why dictators fear books and why oppressors silence teachers, because knowledge is power and power disrupts control. When you invest in knowledge, you are investing in your own freedom. Think of Frederick Douglass, born into slavery, forbidden to read or write. He risked punishment, even his life, to learn the alphabet in secret. That knowledge, humble at first, grew into eloquence that helped dismantle the very institution that enslaved him. His story reminds us that knowledge is not a luxury. It is survival. It is transformation. It is revolution. In your own life, the revolution may be quieter, but no less real. Learning to manage money can free you from debt. Learning to communicate can open doors in your career. Learning history can keep you from repeating mistakes. Learning science can help you make healthier choices. Each new piece of knowledge strengthens the walls of your inner fortress, making you less vulnerable to fear, less dependent on others, more capable of steering your own course. Of course, the investment in knowledge demands something in return. Time, focus, humility. Many say they have no time to read, no energy to learn, but they often have hours for distraction. The truth is, time exists. It is only misallocated. Consider time itself as currency. Where you spend it reveals what you value. If you treat learning as non-negotiable, as essential as eating or sleeping, you will find the hours. A page before bed, a lecture during a commute, a podcast during chores, each becomes a deposit into your mind's treasury. Humility is also vital. To learn, one must admit not knowing. The arrogant believe they know enough and therefore stop growing. The humble continue to ask, continue to explore, continue to expand. Every expert began as a beginner who refused to stop learning. By embracing humility, you keep your portfolio of knowledge open to infinite growth. And finally, knowledge must be shared. When you teach others, when you explain what you've learned, the act itself deepens your mastery. Knowledge hoarded stagnates. Knowledge shared multiplies. Mentor someone. Offer insights. Write, speak, create. Not only will others benefit, but you yourself will discover new depths of understanding. So we return to our central metaphor. Knowledge as capital. Invest daily, invest wisely, reinvest consistently. Let your library, whether physical, digital, or internal, be your vault. Let your conversations be transactions of insight. Let your curiosity be the currency you spend freely, knowing it always returns multiplied. As we conclude this section, remember this: the mind you cultivate is the foundation upon which all other investments rest. Without knowledge, health cannot be managed, relationships cannot be nurtured, experiences cannot be fully understood. Knowledge is the compass and the map, guiding every other decision. And as knowledge expands your vision, you will see the next pillar more clearly. The necessity of health, because what use is a fortune of wisdom if the body collapses? If knowledge is the mind's capital, then health is the currency of action. It determines how far your investments can carry you. Health is the currency of action. Without it, even the most brilliant ideas remain unexecuted. Even the most disciplined minds remain trapped in bodies too weary to rise. Health is not only about the absence of illness, but about the presence of energy, resilience, and vitality that allow every other investment to bear fruit. What good is a vast library of knowledge if fatigue keeps us from applying it? What good are networks of valuable connections if stress and illness leave us unable to engage? Health is the foundation upon which all self-investment stands. Picture a grand building. Knowledge is the architecture, the design that stretches upward. Relationships are the bridges connecting one tower to another. Experience fills the halls with stories and echoes, but without a strong foundation, the building crumbles. That foundation is health, both physical and mental. A weak body and a troubled mind undermine every other effort. A strong body and balanced mind, by contrast, become a platform from which greatness can ascend. Let us begin with physical health. The body is our only true vehicle through this life. Just as a wise investor maintains their tools, machines, and infrastructure, we must maintain the body. Nutrition is fuel. Exercise is maintenance. Rest is repair. To neglect any of these is to sabotage our own enterprise, yet many do. They pour effort into their careers, into possessions, into outward success, while quietly draining the very energy that makes those things possible. Eventually, the neglected body collects its debt with interest in the form of illness, fatigue, or premature decline. But those who invest in health find the returns extraordinary. A balanced diet sharpens focus, fuels productivity, and strengthens immunity. Regular movement keeps the heart pumping, the muscles strong, the mind clear. Sleep, often sacrificed, is the invisible accountant of our well-being, consolidating memories, balancing hormones, repairing tissues. The dividends of health are not merely years added to life, but life added to years. Vibrancy, mobility, clarity, and joy. Mental health is equally vital, though often overlooked. Stress, anxiety, depression, these are like hidden debts accumulating silently. Left unchecked, they erode not only our happiness, but also our capacity to create, connect, and grow. Investing in mental health means cultivating practices that sustain balance. Meditation, journaling, therapy, time in nature, creative expression. It also means protecting boundaries, saying no when necessary, refusing to overload the system. Consider this. Olympic athletes train not only their muscles, but their minds. They visualize victory, practice mindfulness, build resilience. Their coaches know that a body at peak condition still fails without a steady mind. In the same way, our ambitions falter if stress consumes us, if fear paralyzes us, if inner turmoil clouds our vision. The investment in mental clarity pays back in confidence, calm decision-making, and emotional strength that outlasts chaos. Let us look at some examples. Steve Jobs, in his later years, spoke openly about the futility of chasing wealth without guarding health. He reflected that all the money he amassed could not buy back the vitality his body lost. Contrast that with Richard Branson, who attributes much of his entrepreneurial energy to prioritizing fitness. To him, exercise is not optional. It is a daily investment that fuels his creativity and adventurous spirit. We often underestimate how interconnected physical and mental health are. A sedentary body breeds a restless mind. Poor nutrition fogs thought. Lack of sleep distorts emotions. Conversely, exercise releases endorphins, lifting mood. Healthy food sharpens cognition. Rest restores emotional balance. The system is one. Every part influences the other. A true investor in health considers the whole. Yet investing in health does not demand extremes. It does not require endless hours in the gym or rigid diets. It requires consistency. Just as compound interest grows wealth through steady deposits, compound health grows vitality through steady habits. A daily walk, a mindful pause, a balanced meal, small, repeated investments that accumulate over years into a treasury of well-being. Think also of resilience. Life is unpredictable. Illness may strike, accidents may occur, stress may surge. Those who have invested in health are not immune, but they are fortified. Their bodies recover faster. Their minds bend without breaking. Resilience is itself a form of wealth, one that cannot be purchased in a crisis, but must be built in advance. Health is not selfish. It is service. When we care for our bodies and minds, we extend our capacity to serve others, to contribute, to love. A parent in good health has more energy for children. A leader with balanced mind has more clarity for decisions. A partner who invests in well-being brings stability and joy into a relationship. By neglecting health, we do not only harm ourselves, we rob those around us of our best selves. Reflect on this truth. The wealthiest people on earth cannot buy more time, but by investing in health, we can increase the quality of the time we have. Imagine your final years. Do you see yourself confined, weary, dependent? Or do you see yourself vibrant, still learning, still traveling, still sharing wisdom? The vision depends largely on the investments you make today. So how do we begin? Start simple. Move your body daily in whatever form brings you joy. Choose foods that fuel rather than drain. Prioritize rest as much as work. Protect your mind with practices of calm and with boundaries against chaos. And remember, every choice compounds. A soda today may seem small, but repeated daily becomes debt. A walk today may seem small, but repeated daily becomes wealth. As we close this section, let us remember, knowledge builds vision, but health sustains action. Together, they form the foundation of true wealth. For when the mind is sharp and the body is strong, we are prepared to extend ourselves outward. And what lies beyond the self? The bridges of connection, the investments we make in relationships. Because if health is the foundation of the building, relationships are the bridges that carry us beyond our own walls into the wider world. Relationships are the bridges that carry us beyond the walls of our own existence. They connect our ideas to opportunities, our energy to causes greater than ourselves, our presence to communities that multiply our influence. If knowledge expands our vision and health sustains our journey, relationships create the pathways that allow us to travel farther than we ever could alone. No matter how skilled, intelligent, or determined we may be, success rarely comes as a solitary achievement. It is woven through networks of people, each thread reinforcing the fabric of our lives. Consider how bridges function in a city. A bridge connects two otherwise separated spaces, enabling the flow of people, goods, and ideas. Without it, each side remains isolated. With it, a vibrant exchange becomes possible. So it is with relationships. A single authentic connection can open an entire world of opportunity that was invisible before. One introduction, one conversation, one act of trust can change a life. But relationships are not built overnight. They are cultivated through time, intention, and authenticity. Too often we imagine networking as a transactional game, a marketplace of favors. But real relationships, the kind that endure and multiply value, are built on something deeper: mutual respect, genuine care, and the willingness to invest without immediate return. When we sow trust, we reap support. When we sow generosity, we reap goodwill. And when we sow consistency, we reap loyalty. Think of Oprah Winfrey. Much of her influence is not merely from her skill as a communicator, but from the deep trust she built with millions of viewers and countless individuals in her professional circle. She invested in people, listening, encouraging, elevating others. Those relationships became not just bridges, but highways of opportunity, enabling her to launch initiatives, amplify voices, and create change on a massive scale. Or consider the story of a young professional who lands a dream job not because of a perfect resume, but because a mentor made a phone call, because a colleague vouched for their character, because years of authentic connection bore fruit in a moment of need. This is the hidden wealth of relationships. They are reservoirs of opportunity stored in human hearts, unlocked not by demand but by trust. Relationships also enrich us far beyond professional advantage. They bring meaning, support, and joy. In times of trial, it is relationships that sustain us. Money cannot hold our hand in grief. Knowledge cannot embrace us when we falter. Health, though vital, does not replace companionship. Only relationships, friendships, partnerships, family bonds, communities fill those spaces. Investing in relationships is therefore not only strategic, but profoundly human. But how do we invest well? First, by showing up with presence. In a world distracted by screens, to give someone your full attention is a gift rarer than gold. Listen deeply. Ask questions not to reply, but to understand. Let people feel seen. Second, by adding value. Do not approach relationships only for what you can gain. Offer help, share knowledge, celebrate others' victories. Generosity builds bridges stronger than ambition ever could. Third, by consistency. Trust is not built in a day, but in repeated moments of reliability. Be the one who keeps promises, who follows through, who stands firm when others drift. There is also the art of discernment. Not every relationship is worthy of investment. Some connections drain rather than enrich. Toxicity, manipulation, envy, these corrode the bridge rather than strengthen it. A wise investor learns to distinguish between bridges that lead to growth and those that collapse under weight. Protect your energy by choosing carefully where to build. Sometimes, the bravest act is not adding another relationship, but letting go of one that erodes your foundation. And let us not forget the digital age. Today, relationships stretch across continents. With a single message, you can connect to someone on the other side of the globe. This power, unprecedented in history, multiplies both opportunity and responsibility. Online connections can be real bridges if cultivated with authenticity, but they can also become shallow if reduced to likes and fleeting comments. To truly invest, even in digital spaces, requires depth, conversations, collaborations, shared journeys. The medium changes, but the principles of trust and authenticity remain timeless. Think also of the subtle compounding effect of relationships. Just as money grows when reinvested, relationships deepen when nurtured. A friendship maintained over decades becomes a vault of shared history, resilience, and wisdom. A professional bond strengthened through years of trust can turn into a partnership that outlasts markets. Each act of care, each gesture of support, adds to the capital of connection. Over time, this capital compounds into a network of bridges so strong that even storms cannot wash them away. There is an African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This is the essence of investing in relationships. Alone, we may achieve speed, but together we achieve legacy. Together we endure. Together we multiply what none of us could carry alone. Let us also remember, relationships are not only outward. The relationship with oneself is the central bridge. If you distrust yourself, neglect yourself, or betray your own values, no external connection can fill the void. Self-respect, self-kindness, self-discipline, these form the inner bridge that allows us to connect authentically with others. Without them, all external investments crumble. So reflect for a moment, who are the bridges in your life? Who has helped you cross chasms you could not have crossed alone? And whose bridge are you building in return? The wealth of your relationships is measured not in the number of contacts stored in a phone, but in the depth of trust you have cultivated. As we conclude this section, remember this: knowledge gives us vision, health gives us strength, and relationships give us connection. With these three, we are already building a fortune of immeasurable worth. But there remains a fourth pillar, one that colors the journey itself: experience. For beyond what we know, beyond how we feel, beyond who we connect with, it is what we live through that shapes us most. Experiences are the compound interest of life, multiplying wisdom with every step into the unknown. Experience is the compound interest of life. Knowledge fills the mind, health strengthens the body, relationships weave the web of support, but experience transforms them all into wisdom. It is one thing to read about courage, another to stand at the edge of fear and step forward. It is one thing to understand health in theory, another to climb a mountain and feel lungs burning, heart racing, body alive. It is one thing to know the importance of kindness, another to look into a stranger's eyes in a faraway land and realize humanity is one. Experiences are the crucibles where theory becomes truth, where ideas are forged into character. Consider how money grows through compound interest. Each deposit multiplies over time, building upon itself until the returns dwarf the original investment. Experiences work the same way. Each journey, each challenge, each exploration layers upon the last, giving us perspective, resilience, and creativity. The lessons of youth shape the decisions of adulthood. The trials of struggle shape the strength of victory. What you live through becomes the treasury of wisdom that no book, no lecture, no conversation can replace. Travel, for instance, is one of the richest forms of experience. To leave the familiar, to step into cultures unlike your own, to taste foods, hear languages, and walk streets where history whispers, this widens the mind like nothing else. A passport becomes a portfolio of perspectives. Each stamp is a deposit of humility and wonder, teaching us that our way is not the only way, that the world is vast and filled with countless ways of living. But experiences need not always be exotic. Challenge itself wherever it arises is a teacher. Taking on a difficult project at work, starting a business, learning an instrument, running a marathon, each pushes us into discomfort, and discomfort is where growth lives. Comfort zones, like savings accounts with no interest, may feel safe but yield nothing. Stepping into the unknown, into effort and risk, is what yields returns of confidence and resilience. Experiences also shape identity. Think of how a soldier, forged in the crucible of hardship, carries lessons of discipline and sacrifice into every future task. Think of how a parent, through the daily challenges of raising a child, develops patience, empathy, and unshakable love. Think of how an artist, through the struggles of rejection, learns persistence and vision. Each role, each trial, each triumph etches lessons into the soul. And like financial investments, timing matters. The earlier we embrace experiences, the longer their dividends flow. A young person who dares to volunteer abroad, who dares to try, to fail, to explore, gains perspectives that shape every future choice. Yet unlike money, experiences can be pursued at any age. A retiree traveling for the first time, learning a language, or volunteering discovers richness no less profound. Life continues to offer compound interest so long as we are willing to step forward. There is also the truth that not all experiences are joyful. Pain, loss, failure, these too are teachers. Indeed, some of the most enduring wisdom arises not from comfort, but from struggle. A failed business teaches humility and strategy. A broken relationship teaches self-awareness and the value of trust. A season of illness teaches gratitude for simple strength. These are not investments we would choose, but they yield returns nonetheless, shaping resilience, deepening empathy, sharpening perspective. Oprah Winfrey often speaks of how her difficult childhood, marked by poverty and trauma, became the soil from which her compassion and determination grew. She transformed pain into power, wounds into wisdom. Warren Buffett, though born with talent for numbers, admits that the experiences of fear and mistakes in his early career were what truly taught him discipline in investing. Great figures do not emerge unscathed. They emerge transformed by experiences that could have broken them, but instead became fuel. So how do we invest intentionally in experiences? By choosing not the easiest path, but the one that stretches us. By saying yes to opportunities that scare us, by leaning into challenges that force us to grow, by embracing curiosity instead of clinging to routine. To invest in experiences is to seek depth, not just comfort. It is to live stories worth retelling. Reflect on your own life for a moment. Which experiences shaped you most? Were they the comfortable afternoons or the daring ventures? The predictable routines or the unexpected journeys? Chances are the turning points were experiences that pushed you, humbled you, lifted you, or broke you open to something new. This is the wealth of experience. It multiplies wisdom in ways invisible at first, but undeniable in hindsight. Let us also recognize that experiences are not solitary investments. They ripple outward. When you grow from an experience, you carry that growth into your relationships, your work, your community. A leader who once failed understands the struggles of their team. A traveler who once felt like a stranger welcomes newcomers with open arms. A survivor of hardship brings courage to others. Experiences compound not only within us, but across those we touch. And so, in this grand portfolio of self-investment, experience is the multiplier. It turns knowledge into wisdom, health into resilience, relationships into legacies. To neglect it is to live only half a life, to invest only in the theory of growth without its living proof. As we close this section, hold this truth. Every day offers a chance to invest in experience. Some opportunities will be grand, others small. But each moment lived fully is a deposit into the account of wisdom. Choose them with courage. Live them with presence. And know that compounded over years, they will form the story of a life well invested. Now, having seen the four pillars, knowledge, health, relationships, and experience, we can turn to the deeper principle that binds them all, the power of compounding. For just as money grows exponentially through reinvestment, so too does self-investment multiply, creating a wealth far beyond what we imagine when we begin. Compounding is the quiet miracle of growth. In finance, it is the reason why modest savings, consistently reinvested, can become fortunes. In life, it is the force that transforms small habits of self-investment into extraordinary outcomes. Just as interest builds upon interest, each act of learning builds upon the last, each healthy choice strengthens the next, each relationship nurtured opens doors to others, each experience lived deepens the impact of all that follow. Compounding is not dramatic. It is patient, invisible at first, but unstoppable over time. Think of planting a tree. In the first years, growth seems slow, almost disappointing. But with steady nourishment, roots spread deep, trunk strengthens, branches stretch wide. Eventually, it provides shade, fruit, even becomes a landmark that outlives the planter. Self-investment works the same way. In the beginning, reading a few pages, exercising for 30 minutes, calling a friend, or saying yes to a challenge may seem trivial. But compounded over months, then years, these acts transform identity. The mind becomes sharper, the body stronger, the network richer, the spirit wiser. The principle of compounding explains why some lives expand exponentially, while others stagnate. A person who neglects learning for a week sees little change. For a year, still manageable. For a decade, the gap becomes enormous. Meanwhile, someone who reads a little every day, practices skills, invests in health, and embraces new experiences. Over years, they are unrecognizable, their growth astonishing, not because of one grand moment, but because of countless small investments compounding. Albert Einstein once called compounding the eighth wonder of the world. He may have spoken of money, but it applies equally to self. Each act of growth reinvested does not simply add, it multiplies. A new skill learned allows us to seize an opportunity, which leads to another skill, which leads to a new network, which leads to greater resilience. One small investment cascades into exponential transformation. Consider language. Learn 10 words a day, and in a year, you command thousands. With that language, you connect with people you never could before. Those connections lead to experiences that reshape your worldview, and all of it began with the simple compound act of daily learning. Or consider fitness. A daily walk strengthens the heart, which boosts energy, which improves focus, which fuels career growth. The chain is endless, each link forged by compounding. We often underestimate time. We overestimate what can be achieved in a week and underestimate what can be achieved in a decade. This is the tragedy of impatience. We quit too soon, expecting visible returns instantly. But compounding demands patience. It asks us to trust that the invisible is working, that growth is happening beneath the surface, that today's small choices are tomorrow's transformation. Warren Buffett embodies this principle not only in finance, but in life. He became a billionaire not through wild risk-taking, but through decades of disciplined compounding, of knowledge, of habits, of reputation. He has said, "The best investment you can make is in yourself." Why? Because the returns are compounded across every dimension of life. Health compounds into energy, energy into opportunity. Knowledge compounds into skill, skill into success. Relationships compound into networks, networks into legacy. But compounding is not neutral. Neglect compounds too. Poor habits, repeated daily, also multiply. Junk food, procrastination, toxic relationships, wasted time, each may seem harmless in isolation, but compounded, they erode vitality, diminish potential, shrink horizons. Compounding is a law, not a choice. The only choice is whether it will work for us or against us. This is why intentionality matters. To harness compounding, we must choose wisely where to invest. Not every book is worth reading. Not every activity builds health. Not every connection enriches. Not every experience teaches. Discernment ensures that our small daily choices accumulate into wealth rather than waste. Let us imagine two futures. In one, a person makes modest, positive investments daily: reading, exercise, gratitude, connection. At first, little changes. After 5 years, they are healthier, wiser, surrounded by supportive people, living a richer story. In the other, a person makes small negative investments, skipping exercise, indulging distraction, neglecting relationships. At first, little changes. After 5 years, they are heavier, more anxious, isolated, stagnant. The divergence is vast, yet it began with choices so small they seemed invisible. This is the hidden power of compounding. It magnifies both discipline and neglect. That is why we must begin now, no matter how small. The earlier the investment, the more time compounding has to work its quiet miracle. But even if we begin late, compounding still rewards us. 10 years of reading, even begun at 50, produces a transformed mind at 60. 10 years of exercise produces a stronger body at 70. Compounding rewards any who honor it with patience. And compounding is not limited to personal gain. When we invest in others, teaching, mentoring, inspiring, the effects ripple beyond us. A kind word today may shape a child's confidence for life. A mentorship may set a career in motion that transforms industries. Compounded through generations, our investments in others create legacies that outlive us. So let us see clearly. Compounding is the hidden engine of self-investment. It makes small acts powerful, consistency transformative, patience priceless. To neglect it is to surrender the greatest force of growth. To embrace it is to unlock exponential wealth of mind, body, heart, and spirit. As we move forward, the question arises: if compounding rewards steady investment, how do we allocate our limited resources, our time, money, energy, across the many ways to invest in ourselves? That is the next step in our journey. Learning how to create a personal development budget, a wise plan for distributing our investments where they yield the richest returns. Every investor knows that wealth does not grow by accident. It grows by strategy, by carefully choosing where to allocate resources, by balancing risk and reward, by diversifying wisely. The same principle applies to self-investment. Our time, money, and energy are limited. We cannot pour endlessly into every direction. To grow steadily, we must create a personal development budget, a plan for allocating resources where they yield the highest return over a lifetime. Think of this budget not as rigid numbers on a spreadsheet, but as a compass that guides your choices. Just as a financial portfolio spreads across stocks, bonds, and savings, a self-investment portfolio spreads across knowledge, health, relationships, and experience. Each sector deserves attention, yet the proportions may change depending on your stage of life and your immediate goals. What matters most is that no sector is neglected, and that your overall investments align with the life you wish to create. Let us begin with time, the most precious currency. Unlike money, time cannot be replenished once spent. Every hour is a choice: to invest, to waste, or to ignore. A personal development budget starts with reclaiming wasted hours and redeploying them into growth. How much time do you spend scrolling aimlessly, watching without purpose, or worrying without action? Even reclaiming 30 minutes a day can fund an extraordinary education, a healthier body, or deeper relationships. Money, too, plays its role. While many forms of self-investment are free, reading from a library, exercising outdoors, practicing mindfulness, some require financial commitment. Courses, travel, healthy food, therapy, mentorship, these cost something upfront, but pay dividends over years. The question to ask is not, how much does this cost? But, What is the return on this investment? $1,000 spent on a vacation of indulgence may fade quickly, but $1,000 spent on a course that reshapes your career may multiply tenfold. Energy is another resource often overlooked. Even with time and money, if our energy is depleted, the investment yields little. Thus, part of your budget must protect and replenish energy. This means honoring rest, saying no to drains, and channeling energy into pursuits that align with purpose. A fatigued mind learns little. A stressed body resists growth. Investing in energy is the unseen foundation that makes all other investments effective. How then might a personal development budget look in practice? Imagine dividing your resources into 4 categories. Knowledge. Allocate consistent time for reading, learning, courses. Even 10% of daily hours, less than 2.5 hours, transforms a year into nearly 1,000 hours of education. Health. Commit resources to exercise, nutrition, and rest. This may mean gym fees, healthier groceries, or simply prioritizing daily movement and sleep. Relationships. Dedicate intentional time to family, friends, mentors, and new connections. Schedule it, protect it, treat it as seriously as work meetings. Experience. Save for travel, set aside energy for challenges, say yes to opportunities that expand perspective. The balance will differ for each person. A student may pour more into knowledge, a new parent may prioritize health and relationships, an entrepreneur may invest heavily in experience and networks. The key is intentionality. Deciding where your resources flow rather than letting them leak unconsciously into distraction. Let us take an example. Imagine 2 individuals with the same income. One spends most discretionary money on entertainment and consumption, leaving little for growth. The other budgets for books, workshops, nutritious food, and meaningful travel. After 5 years, their financial net worth may look similar, but their personal net worth, the capital of mind, body, relationships, and experiences, is vastly different. One drifts, the other compounds. Creating a personal development budget also requires regular review. Just as investors rebalance portfolios, we must reflect, where have I been overinvesting? Where have I been neglecting? Perhaps you are excelling in knowledge but neglecting health, or you are rich in relationships but starving for new experiences. Rebalancing ensures that growth remains holistic, not lopsided. There is also the principle of reinvestment. When an investment yields returns, channel part of those returns back into growth. Did a new skill lead to a promotion? Use part of the extra income to fund further learning. Did better health give you more energy? Use that energy to deepen relationships or explore new experiences. This cycle creates momentum, a self-sustaining engine of compounding growth. And let us not forget the importance of small, steady contributions. Many delay self-investment because they believe it requires massive resources. But just as investors say, it's not about timing the market, but time in the market. So too with personal growth. The key is to begin, even modestly, and to continue consistently. A few dollars for a book, a few minutes for reflection, a single choice for health. Compounded, these become a fortune. Think of Warren Buffett's wisdom. Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. Apply this to growth. Do not invest in yourself only with what is left after life's demands. Instead, prioritize self-investment first, and let the rest adjust around it. For without investing in yourself, the rest holds little value. A personal development budget, then, is not restrictive, but liberating. It transforms growth from something vague into something intentional. It ensures that your most precious resources, time, money, energy, are not squandered, but directed toward building the greatest asset you will ever own, yourself. As we step forward, we will look at examples of those who lived this truth, icons who treated themselves as the primary investment, and whose lives demonstrate the incredible returns of such a strategy. From Warren Buffett to Oprah Winfrey, their stories are not simply tales of success, but lessons in what happens when one dares to place faith, time, and resources into self. Great lives often appear to us as miracles, stories of extraordinary talent, luck, or destiny. Yet when we look more closely, we discover a common thread. Those lives are built on intentional self-investment. They are not accidents of fate, but the result of choices, habits, and reinvestments that compound over years. By studying the journeys of remarkable people such as Warren Buffett and Oprah Winfrey, we see how the principles we have explored, knowledge, health, relationships, experience, compounding, and personal budgeting, unfold in real life. Their stories remind us that greatness is not reserved for the chosen few. It is available to all who choose to invest in themselves. Let us begin with Warren Buffett, often called the Oracle of Omaha. His fortune is measured in billions, but when asked about his greatest investment, he points not to a stock, but to a skill, communication. In his youth, Buffett was terrified of public speaking. He avoided situations where he might be called to speak, knowing his fear would paralyze him. But he realized that if he could not communicate, his knowledge and financial insights would never influence anyone. So he invested in himself by enrolling in a Dale Carnegie public speaking course. He later described it as the best investment he ever made. That decision, small at the time, compounded through decades, allowing him to lead, to inspire, to persuade, to shape companies and economies. What does Buffett's example teach us? That sometimes the most profitable self-investments address our greatest weaknesses. By transforming fear into strength, we open pathways previously closed. Knowledge alone was not enough. His financial genius needed the bridge of communication to bear fruit. And it all began with the humility to invest in growth. Oprah Winfrey's story is another testament. Born into poverty, marked by hardship and trauma, she might have been crushed by circumstance. Yet she chose repeatedly to invest in her growth. She read voraciously, cultivated empathy, honed her communication, and embraced experiences that stretched her perspective. As she rose in broadcasting, she did not simply chase fame. She invested in authenticity, in listening deeply, in building relationships of trust with her audience. That trust became her greatest asset, more valuable than any financial portfolio. What made Oprah extraordinary was not luck, but the intentional use of her resources, time, energy, money, to build herself. She spent hours in preparation, years refining her craft, decades nurturing the bridges of trust. Even at the height of success, she continued to learn, to invest in causes, to grow spiritually and intellectually. The compounding of these investments transformed her into not just a television host, but a cultural force, a mentor to millions. The lesson here is clear. Circumstances do not define us. Choices do. Oprah could not control her beginnings, but she could control her investments, her reading, her mindset, her pursuit of excellence. Each choice, compounded, built a life beyond imagination. Other examples abound. Steve Jobs, dropping out of college, invested his energy not in traditional paths, but in calligraphy classes that seemed useless at the time. Years later, that investment shaped the elegant design of Apple products, revolutionizing technology. Richard Branson invested in health and adventure, building resilience that fueled his entrepreneurial daring. Nelson Mandela, even in prison, invested in learning languages and understanding his captors, preparing himself to lead a divided nation toward unity. Each story confirms the same truth. Investing in oneself is the seed of legacy. Talent may open the door, but self-investment keeps it open. Opportunity may knock once, but investment prepares us to answer. Success is not built in a moment. It is compounded from daily choices. But notice, too, the diversity of their investments. Buffett chose communication. Oprah chose authenticity. Jobs chose design. Branson chose vitality. Mandela chose wisdom. There is no single path. The principle is universal, but its expression is unique to each life. This is liberating, for it means that we need not copy others exactly. We must instead discern, what is my weakness that needs transformation? What is my strength that needs amplification? Where must I allocate my resources to yield the greatest return? We must also note that these figures invested not only for personal gain, but for impact. Oprah used her platform to elevate others. Mandela invested in reconciliation to heal a nation. Buffett has pledged billions to philanthropy. True wealth, when multiplied, becomes service. The richest investments are those that ripple outward, touching lives beyond our own. Imagine for a moment if these figures had refused to invest. If Buffett had remained silent, too afraid to speak. If Oprah had believed poverty defined her. If Jobs had ignored beauty in design. If Mandela had allowed bitterness to rule his heart, the world would be poorer. And yet the difference lay not in destiny, but in investment, in the courage to build themselves, to become more than circumstance, to compound their choices into greatness. As we reflect, let us ask, what investment made today could reshape our tomorrow? What fear, if faced, could open new doors? What habit, if cultivated, could multiply across decades? What skill, if learned, could elevate every future opportunity? The stories of the great remind us. Self-investment is not optional if we seek a life of meaning. It is the one portfolio where we are both investor and asset, both risk and reward. To neglect it is to squander the only stock guaranteed to grow. To embrace it is to write a story that outlives us. As we close this section, we prepare to turn inward once more. For beyond examples of others lies the most important question. How do we embody our investments? How do we transform knowledge, health, relationships, and experiences into identity itself? Becoming not just students of growth, but living expressions of it. At some point, the investments we make in ourselves cease to be separate acts. They fuse into identity. Knowledge becomes not just something we acquire, but the way we think. Health becomes not just habits, but the way we live. Relationships become not just contacts, but the way we move through community. Experiences become not just stories, but the very lens through which we see life. The true goal of self-investment is not accumulation, but transformation, becoming the embodiment of what we have built. Think of a tree again. In the early years, you water it, protect it, prune it, feed it. But over time, it becomes strong enough that the care is no longer an effort. It is part of its nature. It draws nourishment automatically, grows naturally, provides fruit without constant intervention. So it is with self-investment. In the beginning, discipline feels like work. But as the returns compound, the practices fuse into character. You no longer force yourself to read, you are a learner. You no longer drag yourself to exercise, you are a healthy being. You no longer calculate kindness, you are compassionate. What once was practice becomes identity. This is where the wealth of self-investment becomes unshakable. Circumstances may change. Money may come and go. Careers may rise and fall. But who you have become remains. An identity built on knowledge, resilience, compassion, and wisdom cannot be stolen. It is a fortress carried within, impervious to external storms. Consider how this plays out in lives we admire. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, stripped of freedom, possessions, career. Yet his identity, shaped by years of self-investment in wisdom, language, resilience, remained intact. When released, he did not emerge broken, but whole, ready to lead. His wealth was not what he owned, but what he had become. Or think of Maya Angelou. Her words, her poise, her presence radiated the wealth of a life invested in reflection, resilience, and creativity. She was not merely a writer, she was literature embodied. Her identity itself became the legacy. This is the mark of deep self-investment. It becomes indistinguishable from the person. This transformation also protects us from the fragility of external validation. Many chase success defined by applause, money, or titles. But when applause fades, when markets shift, when titles are lost, emptiness follows, unless one's identity itself has been shaped by self-investment. The scholar remains a thinker even without degrees. The athlete remains disciplined even without medals. The compassionate remain givers even without recognition. The wealth is internalized, inseparable from who they are. How do we move from investment to embodiment? Through consistency and integration. Consistency makes habits stick, but integration weaves them into identity. If you read daily but see yourself only as someone trying, you remain external to it. But when you begin to say, "I am a learner," you integrate. If you exercise daily but still think, "I am unhealthy," the investment has not yet fused. But when you say, "I am strong," it becomes identity. Words matter, self-concept matters. We must claim the identity our investments are building. This is why affirmations, rituals, and self-talk are not mere fluff. They are tools for integration. By naming ourselves as what we are becoming, we accelerate the transformation. I am disciplined, I am healthy, I am curious, I am compassionate. These are not lies if we are actively investing. They are seeds of identity being watered into truth. And identity, once formed, multiplies returns effortlessly. When we see ourselves as learners, we seek books naturally. When we see ourselves as healthy, we choose nourishing food without struggle. When we see ourselves as compassionate, we connect deeply without calculation. Identity removes the friction of decision, channeling energy directly into aligned action. But identity also challenges us. If we adopt labels that shrink us, "I am unlucky," "I am lazy," "I am unworthy," those two compound. Negative identity corrodes investments. Thus, part of self-investment is auditing identity, discarding labels that no longer serve and consciously shaping who we are becoming. This is where legacy begins. For when investment becomes identity, and identity radiates through action, others are touched. A parent who embodies discipline raises children who see discipline as natural. A leader who embodies learning builds cultures of growth. A friend who embodies kindness makes kindness contagious. Our identity becomes a beacon, unconsciously inviting others to rise. Reflect then. Who are you becoming through your investments? Not what do you own, not what do you know, not who do you know, but who are you becoming? This question is the true balance sheet of self-investment. It is not enough to accumulate. We must integrate until the wealth is no longer what we have, but who we are. As we prepare to close this journey, we turn to the final step, the recognition that true wealth begins within. Anyone, regardless of background, can build it. The path is open to all, for the stock that never falls is available to everyone. The conclusion is not simply that investing in yourself pays, It is that investing in yourself is the only way to build a wealth that endures. Wealth begins within. Not in markets, not in banks, not in material possessions, but in the choices we make each day to invest in ourselves. We began this journey with a simple truth. There is one stock that never crashes, one investment that never loses value. That stock is you. And now, having walked through the pillars of knowledge, health, relationships, experience, and the miracle of compounding, we return to the heart of the matter. Anyone, anywhere, at any stage of life, can become rich if they begin with themselves. This truth is profoundly democratic. Money, opportunity, and circumstance are not equally distributed, but the choice to invest in oneself is open to all. A child in a small village can pick up a book and expand their mind. A worker with limited resources can commit to exercise and strengthen their health. A student can nurture friendships that last a lifetime. An elder can seek new experiences that reshape perspective even late in life. The entry cost is not wealth, but willingness. We must let go of the myth that self-investment is selfish. It is, in fact, the opposite. When we expand ourselves, we expand what we can give. A teacher who invests in knowledge gives more to students. A doctor who invests in health gives better care. A leader who invests in empathy builds stronger teams. When we grow, the world around us grows. Self-investment is not indulgence. It is service. This is why the richest legacies are not measured in possessions, but in presence. Consider those you admire most. Is it their bank accounts that inspire you, or their character, their wisdom, their courage, their compassion? These qualities are the fruits of self-investment. They ripple outward, touching countless lives. Wealth within becomes wealth without. And we must remember, the journey is never finished. Self-investment is lifelong. Just as markets continue to shift, so too does life. New challenges arise, new seasons demand new growth. The commitment to invest must be renewed daily. Today's health must be maintained tomorrow. Today's knowledge must be expanded tomorrow. Today's relationships must be nurtured tomorrow. Growth is not a destination, but a rhythm, a way of living. Imagine your future self, decades from now, looking back. What story will you have written? Will you see a life where opportunities slipped by because the stock of self was neglected? Or will you see a life rich with wisdom, vitality, connection, and adventure? A life where every small investment compounded into a legacy of abundance? The choice is yours, and the choice begins now. The great figures we studied, Buffett, Oprah, Mandela, Jobs, were not superhuman. They were investors in themselves. They faced fear, hardship, limitation. Yet they made the quiet, daily decision to grow. That same decision is available to us. The gap between ordinary and extraordinary is not luck, it is investment. So let us anchor this truth. The greatest fortune you will ever own is yourself. Guard it, grow it, reinvest it. Knowledge will guide you, health will sustain you, relationships will carry you, experiences will shape you, compounding will multiply you, and budgeting will focus you. Over time, these investments will not only create success, they will create identity, legacy, and impact. Wealth begins within, but it does not stay there. It flows outward, enriching families, communities, even generations. And it all starts with a single step: choosing today to invest in yourself. As we draw this journey to an end, let us pause and gather the threads together. We have spoken of knowledge, the capital of the mind that expands our horizons. We have spoken of health, the foundation that gives strength and resilience. We have spoken of relationships, the bridges that carry us beyond ourselves. We have spoken of experience, the compound interest of life that multiplies wisdom. And we have spoken of the principle that binds them all, compounding, the steady growth that transforms small choices into great legacies. These are the 4 pillars of self-investment. And when we build upon them with intention, we create wealth that no downturn can erase. Financial markets may rise and fall, fortunes may appear and vanish, but the wealth of a mind enriched, a body strengthened, a heart connected, and a soul deepened, this wealth endures. The secret is simple. Start now. Do not wait for perfect timing, for greater resources, for clearer paths. Begin with what you have, where you are. Pick up a book, take a walk, call a friend, say yes to a challenge. Each act is a deposit, and each deposit compounds. In time, the balance sheet of your life will astonish you. Remember, too, that the purpose of this wealth is not isolation, but contribution. The more we grow, the more we can give. The stronger our foundation, the more we can carry others. The richer our experiences, the more stories we can share. The deeper our wisdom, the more guidance we can offer. True self-investment is not about hoarding growth, but about becoming a source of it for others. And so we arrive at the final truth. The greatest asset you will ever possess is not stored in a wallet or a vault, but in the person you are becoming. Protect it, enrich it, celebrate it. For it is the one stock that never falls, the one investment that never fails, the one fortune that grows brighter with each passing year. As you finish this audiobook, ask yourself, what is one investment I will make in myself today? Will it be learning, health, connection, or experience? Whatever it is, begin. For each small step, faithfully compounded, creates the story of a life well lived. Tai san lon hat maban so hu kong nam trong vi, kong nam trong ngan hang, ma shin la kon goi ban jang nuoi duong tung ge. Hai jiao tu vao ban tan gai hom nai, boy kong ko ko fio nao ben vong hon chin ban. And with these words, may you leave not just inspired, but committed. For the wealth of tomorrow is built in the choices of today. Wealth begins within.